And you can't say if this one's false. You're just going to have multiple different ifs is going to give you different ranges and different specific conditions. And you can't say if this one's false. You're just going to have multiple conditions. So let's do equals and ifs tab, and we'll do our first logical test. So let's do if the salesman, or if that equals to salesman, we're going to respond with sales. So that's if the value is true. That's what we want the output to be. Now we're going to go on to our logical test 2. So you're going to see this pattern, right? If this is our conditional or logical test, so if this is true, this is what's going to be returned. So you'll notice that's just a pretty simple pattern. We can just do random things. So if it's equal to sales, and we'll just do the same one. If that is equal to, let's say HR, we can say fire immediately. And now we're going to say if it's equal to regional manager, and we're going to say give Christmas bonus. And we'll close the parentheses and let's see what we get. So as you can see, there's no default value for true or false. Like this one, there was a logical test, and if it was true, there was a value, and if it was false, there was a value. So for every single one, you'll get a value. For this one, that's not exactly going to happen. As you can see, there are these NAs. Now, when that happens, it just means nothing met that condition. So we never said anything about supplier relations. We never said anything about accountants. But if it was part of that ifs statement, then it got something. And so that is how the ifs works. Now let's move on to length. This is exactly what we're going to do, but some of the uses for this, that is how the ifs works. This is exactly what we're going to do, but some of the uses for this, for the length, I've used it for a lot of different things. One thing that I've used it for in the past, and max and ifs, you can use it for almost anything. Length is, there's a lot of different use cases. One, I used to work with a lot of customer data or patient data. They had like social security numbers, and if there was bad social security numbers, we didn't want to include that. And so we do like the length of that. And if a social security number was, let's say, 10 numbers or 11 numbers, where it should only be 9 or however many they are, I think it's 9, then we know that that social security number is incorrect, and then we can get rid of that or discard it from our results. That's just an example, right? So for this, oops, why did I do that? I did Control Z to undo that if you didn't know how to do that. So we're going to do equals len, which is length. And again, if you didn't see that, it returns the number of characters in a text string. So let's go right here and let's go to their last name, and we'll give it a range. So it's going to tell us how many characters are in that string. So for Halpert, it's 7 characters. For Flenderson, it's 10 characters, and we're able to see a length. And so again, there are a lot of different use cases for this. The social security number was one. Another one is phone numbers, right? If you look at the length of the phone numbers, and there's ones that are like 12 numbers long, those might not be ones that are accurate, and you need to go look at them and see if you want to include them in your results or your output. So that is how length is done. Let's move right over to the left and right. I might be going a little fast, but I'm keeping it live. I'm keeping us on our feet. So let's keep going. Left and right are kind of like substrings. If you've taken the SQL tutorial series that I've done, substrings are where you can choose a certain part of the text string and you can extract data from that. And it usually have to reference a certain number, so a certain amount of characters. And that's the exact same thing, except unfortunately, there's no substring. There's substitute, but there's no substring. Left and right is really the closest thing that we have. So let's kind of take a look real quick and see what we can do. So we're going to do left, and it's going to say returns the specified number of characters from the start of a text string. So we're starting from the very far left, and we need to choose of characters from the start of a text string. So we're starting from the very far left, and we need to choose our text and then choose the number of characters that we're going to be looking over. So let's go over here and let's just choose, start simple. We'll get a little bit more advanced. So we have, this is our text range. So these are the ones that we want to look at. And then how many characters do we want to look forward? And we'll just choose 3 as an example. And so you can see that it takes the first 3 characters from every single thing. Now you can also do this with numbers. It doesn't just have to be, name with actual words or letters. You can do the exact same thing. So you can say right, and we're going to choose our string, and let's do this one. So, all of them start with 100, and we'll just say we want to take the last one. So this one is going to start from the very far right, and go over one character. So right here you can see this is our range, and I just chose one. So do a sum if, and sum ifs is kind of the same thing as we did back here. There's the if and the ifs. So the ifs is going to be if it meets multiple conditions. So let's take a look at that one. So let's do equals sum ifs. Now, now the syntax for this one's going to be a little bit different, and you'll see that in just a second. But this adds the cells specified by a given set of conditions or criteria. So let's do an open parenthesis. We'll give the sum range. So let's do the same one as before. Then we have our criteria range. So what are we looking at? This is the area that's going to be added after all these if statements are done, right? So we have to initially set that. Now we're going to say, okay, what criteria are we basing this off of? So let's put a comma. And we're going to base it off of, let's do this one. We'll say if the gender, so we'll do comma, if that's female. Oops. If that's female. And then we'll give another one. We can say if they're female and let's say they are greater than 30. We'll do comma if that's female. Base it off of, let's do this one. We'll say if the gender, so we'll do comma if that's female. Oops. If that's female. And then we'll give another one. We can say if they're female gender, so we have to initially set that. Now we're going to say, okay, what criteria are we basing this off of? So let's put a comma. And we're going to base it off of, let's do this one. We'll say if the gender, so we'll do comma, if that's female. Oops. If that's female. And then we'll give another one. We can say if they're female and let's say they are greater than 30. And we'll close that up. And it's going to give us 88,000. So female, there's 1, 2 right here. So it's going to be this one, and that equals 88,000. So that's how that works. You're able to incorporate several different conditions into the
Hello. Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. So we will get the sum of the salary if the gender is female and if the job title is HR. Yeah, I think that's a good. No, none. Okay, none. What about the gender is male? Gender is male. There's only one row. Okay, this one. Oh,
the sum formula. So again, I know this one's super simple, but you can use it in a much more complex way if you use the sum if and the sum ifs. Almost the exact same thing for this count. I'm not going to go super in depth into this one. I'll just kind of show you because count and sum are kind of on the same level of difficulty. They're both pretty beginner. This is just going to give you a count of how many cells are there. So let's give this range. And so it's not going to add it. It's just going to give us a count. So if we do right here and scroll over them, like highlight them, this count down here, this count down here is 9. And so it's going to give us that count. But we can do a count with conditions, exactly how we did it in the sum. So if we do count if, I did not spell that right. If we do count if, we're going to give a range.
we'll count up the how many value occur. No, no. How many female there? Only 3. Okay.
criteria.
Count how many person there? If the gender is female, and the salary higher than $50,000. So there's one. Maybe 40,000. There's 2. Okay. No, no, yeah.
Exact same as we did before. So let's do this. I mean, you can do this on basically any of these. It doesn't really, for this demonstration, it doesn't really matter. But we'll say if their salary is greater than 45,000. So how many people this is going to give us how many people have a salary over 45,000, and that's 5. So before in the sum if we did that, we did 50,000, it adds everything together. The count is just going to count the amount of cells that meet that criteria. And again, count ifs. We're going to have a criteria range, and then we will specify what if statements we want to be to occur in order to count those cells. So let's do, we want to count, it can be any range, or it can be any of these. We'll do the ID this time. And now we can say, we want it to be, as our criteria 1, we can say we want it to be greater than, we want their ID to be greater than 1005. And let's say we want them to be male. So they have an ID over a certain range, and then they are a male. So there's only 3 people that meet that criteria. And so it'll be Michael, Stanley, and Kevin. Those are our 3 people. And so it gives us a count. Very useful to give quick numbers like this. Something I genuinely use a lot. And I know I've said that a lot during this tutorial, but that's because everything I'm showing you are things that I've used a lot. So I don't feel like I'm speaking out of turn here. Let's look at this one. This one is very has some specific use cases. Notice that this is a text right now. If you do it when it is in a date format, it actually will not work. I mean, you can test it out yourself. You just got to trust me. It's not going to work. So what this does is it's going to give you the range from this day to this day. That's what it's going to do. So let's do, days. We want to choose our end date. So this is our end date. That's kind of backwards from what you think. End date to start date. You think start date to end date. So you have to start with this one, and then we're going to choose the start date. And now it's going to tell us how many days was it from here to here. And this one, it's 5,056. So network days is extremely similar, except it takes out holidays and it takes out weekends. And you can see how many working days has this person, how many working days or network days has this person worked, not including, weekends and holidays, have they actually worked since their start date and their end date. So let's do network days, and we need our start date, our end date, and you can specify extra holidays if you'd like, but there are already standard set holidays in there that it takes out. So, if you want to do that, you can. So we're going to do the start date. Again, this one's different. This one says start date, end date. And then we're going to give the end date. And if you notice, they are going to be different numbers, dramatically lower because it's taking out weekends and holidays. So this is how many days, calendar days they've worked, and this is how many days they've actually days. They're going to be different numbers, dramatically lower because it's taking out weekends and holidays. So this is how many days, calendar days they've worked, and this is how many days they've actually been in the office and worked. And that is it. Again, there are so many formulas. I mean, literally hundreds of formulas that you can utilize and use and are out there for you to try out yourself. If there are specific ones that I did not cover in this video, please put it in the comments below so that I can, show you how to do these things. I will say I've probably used a majority of the ones that you're going to put in the comments already. And if I haven't used it, I'll take a look at it and see if it's really useful, and I'll show you that. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this has been helpful. I feel like a lot of these things are not things that I learned before I started. Almost all of these are ones that I learned while I was on the job. And so I'm hoping that you can get ahead of the curve and you can learn these things before you actually start, so that when you get in there, you're just like killing it with the formulas and people are like, whoa, this guy knows what he's doing in Excel. Give him all the Excel work. And then you become like, just the Excel guy. And everyone, loves you for it. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. I really do hope this helped. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe below. I'll see you in the next video. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In this Excel tutorial, we'll be looking at XLOOKUP. Now, if you don't already know what XLOOKUP is, it is a new feature in Excel to kind of replace VLOOKUP, or to be a much better option. It's a new feature in Excel to kind of replace VLOOKUP, or to be a much better option, at least in my mind, is a much better option than VLOOKUP. And so if you're someone who's either used VLOOKUP a lot and you're trying to, learn this new option, or if you've never never used it before, this video will be super helpful because I'll walk you through kind of the options and what XLOOKUP can do, as well as the difference between XLOOKUP and VLOOKUP. But before we get into the tutorial, I want to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, and that is Udemy. Udemy is the go-to place if you want a full-fledged course in Excel. I have 3 options of courses that I have taken on Udemy, so I'd highly recommend checking those out. They are having a huge sale on all their courses during this time, and so if you are in the market for a course, I highly recommend checking out Udemy and getting one there. Now, without further ado, let's jump on my screen and start the tutorial. All right, so let's get me off the screen because we all know why we're here. So I didn't include this in the formulas video last week because I knew this was going to be a large one and a lot of people are going to want to know how to do this, what the difference between VLOOKUP and XLOOKUP is. So it has its own dedicated video to it. So let's get started. It is a formula. So we're going to come in here in this cell, we're going to hit equal, and then we're going to start typing XLOOKUP. Now I'm going to hit tab in just a second, but let's read what this says. It says searches a range or an array for a match and returns the corresponding item from a second range or array. A range or an array for a match and returns the corresponding item from a second range or array. By default, an exact match is used.
Okay, that's the same as the VLOOKUP. And I can do it. What's that E? So, and VLOOKUP value. VLOOKUP value is the full name. And the VLOOKUP value is this one, and the lookup array is this value, and the return value is this one. If not found, then just say not found. Obviously, Meredith, Meredith Palmer, Yahoo. Yep, that is the same.
So really useful to know. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. Let's hit tab and it's going to complete it. And it's going to start giving us, or it's going to tell us what our input values need to be. We're going to have our lookup value. We're going to have our lookup array, our return array, and then some optional things like if not found. So if your option isn't found, what will be, the output that it gives us, a match mode and a search mode. And I'm going to show you kind of how to use every single one of these things. As you can see at the very bottom, I've kind of already set up all of the instructional content for this video. And so we'll kind of get through all these different scenarios. So let's just start really quickly with how to use it very simply with the lookup array, and return array. So we're going to come in here and we're going to give it our lookup value. Now, Toby Flenderson right over here in A3 is going to be our lookup value. So that's who we're going to be searching for. Now we're going to hit comma, and now we're going to be needing to look up or to input our lookup array. Now an array is just a range basically. So we're going to do, this is where it's going to be searching for that value. This is where it searches for A3. So here's Toby Flenderson, here's Toby Flenderson. So it will find it in this array right here. Then we're going to hit comma. And now we need to give it the return array, what it's going to return on that row when it finds it. So we're going to return his email. Keep it really simple. So what it should do, and let's close parenthesis, what it should do is it should take Toby Flenderson. It's going to search in this column or in this array, and then it's going to return the email when it finds Toby Flenderson. So it's on Toby Flenderson is on row 6. So it's going to find Toby Flenderson. It's going to come over here and it's going to return Toby Flenderson at dundermifflincorporate.com. That's what it should do. Let's see what it actually does. Let's hit enter and it returns it. Now, if we drag it down like this, it'll apply it to all of these names right here. And it works exactly how it's supposed to. Again, if you have never used VLOOKUP, you don't know how good you have it. Okay, VLOOKUP was extremely useful, but just a bit complicated. And I'll talk about that near the end of the video when we compare VLOOKUP to XLOOKUP. But just know that if you're using XLOOKUP for the first time, you're just getting into using Excel, you guys have it good. Okay, so just know that. Now let's go over here to XLOOKUP multiple rows, because you can return more than one output with XLOOKUP. So let's go right in here and we're going to basically write the exact same thing as we did before. So let's write XLOOKUP. We're going to do Toby Flenderson as our value. We're going to search here. we're going to do something a little bit different this time. We want to include our end date and the email. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here. We're going to go down all the way to the bottom of end date, and then we're also going to include the email. And when we do that, it will, in the output, give us a row or a column for end date and a column for email. So an output for both. So let's hit enter. And now we can see that we have the end date here and the email here. Now, one of the downsides or something that I'm not a huge fan of is, well, first off, I love that you can do this. That's fantastic. But it have to be right next to each other. So you're only going to get that output exactly how it is in the columns. So if I went and did this range, I would include all of that. Let's just, for example, let's pull that down here. So let's take this and put it right here. If I did, instead of 0 or O2 to P10, if I included age to email, this whole range, and I hit enter, it's all going to be included. So, that's one of the small downsides of that functionality of when you can use multiple rows, is that it's going to use the rows exactly as they are. You can't really customize it within the formula. You can move around these columns to how you want it. So that is something to note. And again, you can pull this down and it'll be applied to all of those names. Let's go over to XLOOKUP exact match. So let's open this up. We're going to do equals XLOOKUP as we've been doing. And we're actually going to be looking at the if not found and the match mode, both, on this tab right here. So let's do what we've been doing before. We take our value that we're looking up. We take the array that we're looking, and we're going to do, so let's go over to XLOOKUP exact match. So let's open this up. We're going to do equals XLOOKUP as we've been doing. And we're actually going to be looking at the if not found and the match mode, both, on this tab right here. So let's do what we've been doing before. We take our value that we're looking up. We take the array that we're looking, and we're going to do the email. And, as you can see, this says Toby Flender and not Toby Flenderson. So what we are going to do is we're going to hit comma. And if it's not found, you can return a value or a string that you want to return. Now, for simple purposes or for simple instructional purposes, we're going to do not found. And then we're going to close that off. So let's do this. And Toby Flenderson was not found. And so it was returned not found. If Toby Flender was actually in this full name, then it would have returned the email. And then if along the way, one of these was not part of it, then, we would have had the not found. All right, so let's go right up here. We're actually just going to copy this because I want to reuse it. And then we're going to go right here and we're going to hit a comma. Now this is our match mode option. And so we have 4 different options that we can choose from. A 0 is an exact match, and that is by default, that is what we have or what we use. Then there's a -1, and that's an exact match or next smaller item. Then there's a 1, which is an exact match or next larger item. And then there's a 2, which is a wildcard character match. Now we're going to do that, and we are going to try this out, and it's not going to work. And not just because I forgot to put a 4. It's doing it because it's searching for Beasley, but if there's not a wildcard option already put in here, it doesn't recognize it. So we need to indicate where that wildcard needs to be. So we're going to do a double apostrophe or quotation marks. We're going to put an asterisk right here and then do another one. And we're going to hit an ampersand. So we're going to have an ampersand right here. And what that's going to say is anything that comes before A4, anything that comes before Beasley is okay. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as it has Beasley at the end, that is going to be okay. So we're going to have Pam that comes before Beasley, and that's going to tell it, and it's going to say, okay, I know that anything that comes before Beasley is all right. And so when we hit enter, is now going to return the output that we are looking for. And we can include that on these as well. Now, this one is Meredith. And so Meredith is at the beginning. So we have Meredith Palmer. So we can actually take this and we're going to put this at the end, put the ampersand right here, and now it'll work. And the exact same thing for Kevin Malone right here, Kevin Malone. So just the NE at the end. And so it's still going to work if we include that asterisk at the end. Now, I know I said we were looking at search order, but I'm actually going to kind of give you an exact match first and then search order, but it's just kind of easier to show it over here. Here. So I'm going to do X, look search order. Said we were, so it's still going to work if we include that. right. One, you can, and some people showed you kind of, so we're going to do some thing where we only have should do is it should take Toby Flenderson. It's going to search in
Is
in this column or in this array, and then it's going to return the email when it finds Toby Flenderson. So it's on your column, never the first time. Now let's go over here to XLOOKUP here. This whole range, and I hit enter, row or one column green right here in this very first column. Horizontal, then we'll do XLOOKUP with some apostrophe or quotation mark, and that we're going, and now it'll work. And so we're looking at search order, but I'm not going to show it over here. And have search order in a little bit. I do that. And then search order, but looking at search order, but I'm actually going to kind of give you an exact Kevin Malo right at the end. And so it's still going to work if we include that asterisk at the end. Now, I know I said we were looking at search order, but I'm actually going to kind of give you an exact match first and then search order, but it's just kind of easier to show it over here. So I'm going to do X lookup. I'm going to look up this value, do a comma. Here's the range. This is our start date that's going to be looking for. And I want to return the full name. 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 And I want to return the full n Now, I'm going to look up this value, do a comma. Here's the range. This is our start date that's going to be looking for. And I want to return the full name. Now, no value in here has 112,000. But what we can do is we can do comma and then a comma for the match mode and do an exact match or next larger. And I know this is an exact match or next larger. And I know this is an exact match part, but it kind of refers to search order in a little bit, where it searches for the next largest value. That's what that number 1 represents, the next larger value. So we have 112,000, and if we look right here, the next value above 112,000 is 152,000. And so it should return Angela Martin. Let's see if that works. And there it is. Now let's look up the actual search order. So let's do equals X lookup. Let's look up the actual search order. So let's do equals X lookup. This is the value that we want to be searching for. And we're going to be looking in this start date and comma, and we want to return the name. Now let's get over to search mode. Now the search mode performs a search starting at the first item. So at the very top, going down. So by default, it searches from first to last, but you can reverse that and do search from last to first, or you can do a binary search, which is where it sorts in ascending order or sorts in descending order. And that's with the actual value. And so we won't be able to show this binary search or ascending or descending because our values are the same. But if we had different values and we were looking up using this next largest, we would be able to show that. But I'm going to show you this search from first to last and last to first. So let's put in by default, and this is what it would be, search from first to last, what the default would be. So it starts at the very top. It goes down and finds the first 5/6/2001 and returns Toby Flenderson. Now, if we go in here and we hit -1, that is going to search from last to first. So it's going to start at the bottom and go to the top. And the first one that it finds is Michael Scott. So that's that first one starting from the bottom and then the Michael Scott right there. So these two, the exact match and the search order, can kind of be combined into this one right here. We're using this one, which is exact match or next larger, and you can include that in this binary search in this one as well. All right, now let's head over to the X lookup horizontal. I think in this one as well. All right, now let's head over to the X lookup horizontal. think we only have a few left. Yep. For next larger, and you can include that in this binary search in this one as well. All right, now let's head over to the XLOOKUP horizontal. I think we only have a few left. Yep. XLOOKUP larger, and you can include that in this binary search in this one as well. All right, now let's head over to the XLOOKUP horizontal. I think we only have a few left. Yep. XLOOKUP horizontal, then we'll do XLOOKUP with sum, and then I'm going to show you the VLOOKUP at the end. So let's go right here. Let's say equals XLOOKUP. The value that we want to be searching for is February. That's what we're looking for. We hit comma. And where do we want to search to find February? We want to search in these calendar months. months. And then we hit another comma, and now we're going to be searching for paper. Comma, lookup. The value that we want to be searching for is February. That's what we're looking for. XLOOKUP with sum and horizontal. I think we only have a few left. Yep. XLOOKUP horizontal. Then we'll do XLOOKUP with sum. And then I'm going to show you the VLOOKUP at the end. So let's go right here. Let's say equals XLOOKUP. The value that we want to be searching for is February. That's what we're looking for. We hit comma. And where do we want to search to find February? We want to search in these calendar months. And then we hit another comma. And now we're going to be searching for paper. So let's do paper, and we'll hit enter, and it found February, and it returned paper right here. And we can do that for paper, printer, and manila folders. And so it's going to give us the 310, the 40, and the 118 from February. Now let's go right over here to XLOOKUP with sum. It's basically a carbon copy of this. Let's take this over here real quick and place it right there because it's the exact same thing, except at the end, we're going to use, I'm going to show you how to use sum with the XLOOKUP at the same time. Now, and then we hit another February. We want February. That's what we're looking for. We hit comma. And where do we want to search to find February? We want to search in these calendar months. And then we hit another comma. And now we're going to be searching for paper. So let's do paper. And we'll hit enter. and it found February and it returned paper right here. We're going to use, I'm going to show you how to use sum with the X lookup at the same time. Now, you're going to be using the formula sum, and so we're going to do sum, and then within the sum, our first number is going to be an X lookup, and then our next value is also going to be an X lookup. So let's do X lookup, and now we're going to search for our very first value. Our very first lookup value. So we're going to go to I1, and then we're going to search this again, and we want whatever value, goes into that. So let's close that parentheses, and now we're going to do a colon and another X lookup. And now let's do March. So now we're going to search for March. We're going to do our search range where we're searching for that March, and we want the paper as well. And let's close that. And then we also need to close that parenthesis. So now we are basically adding this February and this March. So it's going to be 310 plus 150. It's adding those two values, and it should be 460. So let's see if that is our output. And it is. So you can do this with a lot of things, not just sum, but you're able to use X lookup within different formulas. If you're searching for a specific value and a specific value in another cell, you can add those together using X lookup, which is honestly, it's pretty great. So let's go over to VLOOKUP. So I wanted to show you this because I wanted to show you where it came from and what we used to do. unless you are continuing to use VLOOKUP, and what we can do now. So XLOOKUP, I just showed you kind of everything. But super quickly, I'm going to show you how VLOOKUP used to work in a super short way so that you can understand how it used to be used and how it is used, how XLOOKUP is used now. So let's go in here and we're going to say equals, and we're going to do a VLOOKUP. And so we have a lookup value. And so we're going to click this. We're going to hit comma, just like we did before. And now we're going to do a table array. And the table array is a little different in that you're searching an entire area. So let's do H2 all the way through O10. So that's what our table array is. And we're going to say equals used. Super short XLOOKUP is used now. So let's go in here and we're going to say equals, and we're going to do a VLOOKUP. And so we have a lookup value. And so we're going to click this. We're going to hit comma, just like we did before. And now we're going to do a table array. And the table array is a little different in that you're searching an entire area. So let's do H2 all the way through O10. So that's what our table array is going to be. Then we're going to do a comma, and now we have to do a column index number. Which number are we going to be searching for? Which value are we going to be searching for in here? And so we want to search for 8 because this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We want to return that email, and we're searching for the name right here in this very first column. So we have that comma, and we're going to do 8. And then in the range lookup, you can do true, which is an approximate match, or false, which is an exact match. And we'll do false. I don't know why it's not auto doing it, but there we go. And now we will do it, and it's going to return it just as we had it. A lot of people, I guess not everybody, but some people didn't like, and the reason why they created XLOOKUP, you had to do those ranges. And some people didn't like, and the reason why they created XLOOKUP, you had to do those ranges. And if you ever went in here and then let's say we added another column, which happens to data, now it gives us completely different different data. So let's say for whatever reason we added address. So now we have these people address. Well, now it's going to give us a different value. It's going to have this end dates, because if we go in here, now it doesn't. Now the 8th is this end date and the 9th is this email. So if you have a VLOOKUP that you use for a calculation or a table that you've created or different things in Excel, you then have to go through here and manually change this. And so a lot of people didn't like that, because if you needed to change data or you needed to change something or add an additional column, you'd have to go back and fix all of your VLOOKUPs. They wouldn't just automatically move with it, which is what happens with XLOOKUP. And just to prove this, let's go back to the very first one, which is the XLOOKUP. And right now the email is looking at O2 and through O10. We're just going to insert right here, and that would be our new column. We'll do address. Oops. Address. And notice that it hasn't changed. And why is that? Because it auto changed for us from P2 to P10, understanding that it wanted to stick with, when something was inserted here, it wanted to stick with the original data or the original array that was selected. And so XLOOKUP does that work for you, and it makes it a little bit easier to automate things and create these processes in Excel without having to go fix it later, which you had to do with VLOOKUP. So that is it for today. I hope that you know how to use XLOOKUP a little bit better now that you have watched this. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe below, and I will see you in the next video. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Excel tutorial. Today, we'll be looking at conditional formatting.